Recording in progress.
Welcome, everybody. We're here for the pre-meeting for the West Jordan Planning Commission, November 15th, 2022. And all commissioners, with the exception of McKenna and Matt. Yeah, Matt said he's going to be late. So we'll go ahead and get started. What kind of training do you have today?
We're talking about appeals and variances, so it's more of an informational item for the Planning Commission. The one item on the agenda that I wanted to talk about first is the balanced housing. Going over that, I think Commissioner Marchant wanted to talk about that most. She won't be here tonight, so if we could move that to the next meeting, or we can do it tonight, I'm ready either way. I think it would be good for her to hear, because a lot of you, I know Jay, you and Trish have both been around, and Matt on the commission the longest, and are probably a little more familiar with it. And so, if you want to do it tonight, we can, but I'd recommend we postpone that to the next meeting. But that's up to you as the commission.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, you can. When we get to that point, we can just.
Do we need to make a motion on that, Duncan, since it's on the agenda?
Yeah, during the main meeting, you could make a motion to procedurally to advance that to another meeting.
Okay. All right, we'll do that when that time comes in. How much time do you need?
I can. Believe me, I can fill a half hour. I can do it in 5 minutes, whatever you want. I can talk and talk and talk. So, it's
all right, we'll go through this real quick and then, if that's okay. All right. First thing on the agenda is approval from the minutes from last meeting. Any questions? Okay. Next is the Planning Commission calendar, and I don't know if anybody has any questions about that for next year.
The main thing you'll need to decide is if you want to hold a meeting on election day or not.
I know we've always done it in the past, but I personally would prefer not.
It's a West Jordan election, that's why. Normally it wouldn't. So if anybody cared about it.
Do you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, we could
we'll talk about it later, but I'm definitely okay with not having a meeting on that day. So, okay. The next is the public hearing for the West Jordan oil changers, and it looks like Taylor. Yeah. Oh, there.
Yeah.
I had to get back down to the.
I've had in there. This is an existing lot just off of 7800 South. They're proposing oil changes. It's West Jordan Oil Changes is actually what it's called. Quick oil change. They do the oil changes inside when the passenger's inside the car. There's a site plan, subdivision, and a conditional use permit that we'll be reviewing tonight.
Okay. Is it quick change oil then? Is that the...
Yes.
Okay. I've had my car oil changed from there and they do a pretty good job. Let's see. Next on it is the Copper Rim Town Center IOZ. And Ray, looks like you're on that one.
Yeah. So when the Copper Rim IOZ went through initially, the Planning Commission and Council, the Master Development Plan was approved with a masonry fence that went all along the Mountain View corridor. The area that's kind of north of there's a water tank that kind of separates the area. Everything to the fence to the north of that has been installed. That's where the residential development is. The applicant is requesting that for the commercial area, the south of the water tank, that fence be allowed to be changed out from a solid masonry fence to it's a steel picket fence, as shown in your packet. It's and I think the purpose behind that is just allow visibility down into the site, into that commercial area from the Mountain View corridor, particularly since Furniture Row is going to be located at an angle and will front sort of onto Mountain View corridor. So that's what's in front of you tonight.
Okay.
And this is a recommendation to the city council,
Right.
and it's not a formal public hearing. It's just a recommendation.
Okay, on here it's slated as a public hearing, but,
Oh, okay.
Yep.
So it's a public hearing.
so it is public hearing.
But they don't have to have a public hearing at the council level,
Oh,
I
at the
think is what
council,
you're
okay.
saying, yeah.
All right.
But apparently we're gonna have a public hearing.
We'll have a public hearing.
Okay, and then next on the agenda is the text amendment development procedures. And Alan, do you want to just wait, or do you want to?
I'll just wait till the meeting.
Okay. We're going to be holding our breaths in suspense. And then finally, it is the discussion item for the balanced housing, which we've already talked about. So that is our agenda for tonight.
Can I ask you a
Mr.
quick-
Mayor.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
It's almost as long a walk as it is from council chambers. So when you were talking about the meeting schedule, because it is a local election in November of '23, just as you're planning your calendar, so the city council would be meeting on November 1st and 15th, which are the first and third Wednesdays in the month of November. We moved to the first and third in November and December to avoid the holidays. But there is election day is November 7th, and then we're required by law to certify that in what's called a Board of Canvass meeting, and that would be on November 21st.
And I
So-
noticed that we are scheduled for our meeting on a Wednesday.
Right, that's due to
That-
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's probably I just wanted to make sure that was taken into account.
Yeah, it's on the calendar on a Wednesday, and
Yeah, so we just swap when there's a local election, so we just have to do it on the Tuesday 2 weeks after the election, where the mayor, who sits as the member of the Board of Canvass, and the 7 council members would certify the results, and that would conclude the election for 2023.
okay.
So just an FYI.
And I guess if we had to have a meeting, we could actually change it to a Wednesday too, for the election day. Oh, well, then never mind. We'll just cancel it. What does the city council take precedence or something? Okay, something like that. All right, Larry.
Okay, so
Oh, sorry. Question.
It is, and it could wait until after Larry. Just very quick, maybe an opportunity for training on my part. I'm curious when it comes to the pre-meeting versus the actual meeting, what is the protocol for what questions and discussion ought to occur? Does that make sense? I feel bad sometimes holding questions until the actual meeting and accidentally catching staff off guard or anything like that. So I'm not sure exactly what should be asked in pre-meeting and what kind of conversation versus in an actual meeting.
Technically, under the Open and Public Meetings Act, these are all meetings, right? Whether it's a pre-meeting, the main meeting, work session, public hearing, it doesn't matter. We have to meet all those requirements. So that's why we should always play it safe and have a quorum before we call the meeting to order. The whole spirit of the Open and Public Meetings Act is that we do the business of the public in the open. And so obviously, in the spirit of that, even though it's not ironclad, in writing anywhere, it makes sense to me that if there's very specific details that the public ought to hear, maybe we put those in the main meeting, right? Especially if there's nobody from the public here in the at least not physically present in this part of the meeting. But I think it's a good opportunity to generally just have an idea of what's coming up on the agenda. But I'd recommend specific, detailed questions maybe come up during the main meeting.
Perfect. Thanks.
Okay.
Okay, so I think it's been a year and a half ago the legislature put into law that planning commissions need to be trained. One of the subjects is appeals and variances. Now, sorry, pushed the wrong thing. As a planning commission's you are not an appeal authority. Okay, you never are in West Jordan, but it's good to be trained on it because the decisions you make can be appealed, and so it's good for you to know where if someone appeals your decision. And having worked here almost 10 years, I've never seen that in West Jordan. Now, I'm not saying it doesn't happen because I've worked in other communities where a planning commission decision has been appealed. So the appeal authority that would hear a decision or appeal of a decision made by the planning commission would be the Board of Adjustment. Now, I don't think anyone on this current planning commission has served on the Board of Adjustment. I know that we've had, have you, so yes, George, yeah. Now, the Board of Adjustment doesn't meet a lot, but they are the appeal authority for administrative decisions. Now, the planning commission is an administrative body, and so that would be the first step in the appeal, would go to the Board of Adjustment. Anything staff, any final decision that staff makes would also go to the Board of Adjustment. And then there's also something in, there's 4 functions of the Board of Adjustment. I'm only going to talk about 2 of them tonight that directly affect the Planning Commission. So they would be in the Board of Adjustment appeals of your decision. They act in a quasi-judicial manner, and Duncan, do you want to explain briefly what a quasi-judicial manner is?
Sure. So basically, quasi-judicial means acting sort of like a court, applying the law to the specific facts, especially when there's some room for interpretation. In West Jordan, we typically have criteria that have to be followed. If it's a variance, obviously there's criteria right in state code that have to be followed. So it's basically applying the facts to the law the way that a court would.
And so as you can see on the screen right now, they act in a quasi-judicial manner. They serve as the final arbiter on issues involving interpretation or application of land use ordinances. So if someone appealed the decision I made, it would have to be a final decision that I made, because otherwise they haven't been denied anything and they can't appeal it. And whatever the decision I made and whatever the decision the Board of Adjustment makes, and the reason I say I as a zoning administrator have to accept that, okay? They are the final arbiter. It's not the city council on administrative things. It is the Board of Adjustment. And they may not, and this is where the Planning Commission comes in to play here, because this wasn't always the case in state law. There was a lot of small communities where the Planning Commission also acted as the decision maker and the appeal authority. So it's kind of the Andy Griffith role, that I'm the sheriff. Well, I want to talk to the judge. He'd turn the faceplate over while I'm the judge. So the state, in their infinite wisdom, said, well, it's probably not best that the person making the decision also is the appeal authority. So that's the reason the Planning Commission can never be an appeal authority, because you're the one making the decisions. I cannot be an appeal authority. Now, I can be an appeal of my staff's decision, but that's not a final decision. The final decision comes from me or the Planning Commission. And so if someone comes to the Planning Commission and you deny something, a subdivision, a site plan, and they go right to the district court, the first thing the district court is going to look at is, did you exhaust all your remedies at the local level? If they did not appeal to the Board of Adjustment, and Duncan, you're the attorney, I'm not, the district court would not hear that because they have failure to exhaust all their administrative remedies. And so the Board of Adjustment is a crucial role. They don't get used a lot, but they also cannot be overlooked in our process if somebody's appealing your decision or the zoning administrator decision. And so, like I said, their appeal is appeal of administrative decision. So they appeal my decision, final decision, or your decision. And so some of those examples are conditional use permits. Okay, if you deny a conditional use permit, they have the right to appeal that to the Board of Adjustment. If you deny a site plan, a subdivision, or a zoning code interpretive opinion that I make, say someone wants my interpretation and I make the interpretation but they don't like it, they can appeal that to the Board of Adjustment, but it must be a final decision. Okay, and it must be from Title 13 of this code. You know, it can only come from the zoning ordinance. If someone is denied something under Title 8 or Title 6 of the municipal ordinances, the Board of Adjustment would not hear any of those appeals. It only comes from the zoning ordinance. And the standard of review is there's nothing special given to the Board of Adjustment other than what the Planning Commission has heard or the zoning administrator. So the exact same information you were given to make your decision would be given to the Board of Adjustment. Is that correct, Duncan? There's no, and I don't think there's any, you can't insert new evidence at that time. It has to be the same exact review.
Right, just following up on the record.
Okay, and so the appeal decision is whether the administrative decision which you make is supported by the language in the code. And so that's the reason that staff does staff reports for you, so you don't have to pore over sections of code with every decision. It's in the staff report, but when you make your decision, it is the Planning Commission decision. And it's all based upon code and substantial evidence from the code. We're not making things up. It's somewhere in the code. The reason that you're making the decision, you are making the decision. And so that's the only thing that can be appealed. And so these are just a few examples of the type of administrative decisions that have been appealed in the past. This, as you see on the screen, this was a property on Canal Road off 2200 West. There's a requirement in the ordinance that when they issue a building permit or when they develop the property, they put in curb, gutter, and sidewalk. This property owner said, I don't want to put curb, gutter, and sidewalk in there, and so I'm not going to. They were set to appeal this to the Board of Adjustment, but then they entered into a different agreement, and a deferment agreement with the city that when Canal Road is built in its full, the money deposited would go towards the improvements on the site. Staff doesn't have the authority to waive the requirement to put improvements in, and so either they would have to appeal this to the Board of Adjustment and appeal to them why they shouldn't have to put it in, or they need to enter into some kind of agreement with the city. This applicant, or this property owner, as I said, chose not to go to the Board of Adjustment, and they chose to enter into a deferment agreement with the city. Now, variances, and what a variance is a variance from the ordinance. And it is a relief valve from the ordinance, because there are some cases where literal application of the ordinance will cause a hardship upon a property owner. And as Duncan said, there are these 6 tests of hardship that are right in state code and in city code, and all of these tests of hardship have to be addressed and have to be met before a variance should be granted. Right, there are actually 5 tests of hardship. That last bullet point is the Board of Adjustment can impose conditions upon that variance to try to mitigate the decision they're made. Now, this does not mean that someone said, well, I don't like the fact that I have to hold my house 25 feet back from the front and they're on just a flat lot. I want a bigger backyard. They can't just ignore the ordinance and get a variance. It has to be something that the lot is creating geographic wise, or as I've got a few examples here, or the lot shape itself that was approved. And so that's the reason it's important for the planning commission when a subdivision comes to you is you look at these lots and say, look, this lot's really, really goofy. We probably should have this lot redesigned so it doesn't create a hardship for this property owner. And so these 5 tests of hardship, it's just not, they have to meet one of the 5 tests of hardship. They have to meet all of those, and those are all presented to the Board of Adjustment. And if they if they meet the tests of hardship, then they can be granted a variance. Did you have something you wanted to say, Duncan? Okay. Okay, and so it's an unreasonable hardship. The Board of Adjustment may not find an unreasonable hardship that is self-imposed or economic. So you can't just say, well, I can make a lot more money if I can put a gigantic house if you'll just ignore the setbacks for me. Okay, is the hardship located on or associated with the property for which the variance is sought? You know, it can't be something to do with your neighbor's property. It has to be the lot that you're on. And does the hardship come from circumstances that are peculiar to the property and not conditions that are general in the neighborhood? Okay. And then these bullet points down here, the difficulties must be caused by unique circumstances. You can't create your own hardship. Okay. It has to be something. And so for example, you build your home too close to the property line when on the site plan it showed the proper setback. That's a self-imposed hardship. Okay. The hardship must result from the application of the zoning ordinance, not an operation of a deed restriction or some disability or disability of the property. So it has to be created by the zoning ordinance, either a setback, a lot size, that type of thing. The potential for economic loss or something less than the maximum economic potential, that's not a hardship. Okay, just because you can make more money if you ignore the ordinances, that's not grounds for a hardship. And it must not alter the essential character of the area. So if you have a lot in a R110 zone and you don't like the ordinance that the accessory building has to be less than the footprint of the house, and you seek to get a variance for when you have a 1,200 square foot house, but you want to put a 10,000 or 8,000 square foot garage on there, you know, that's changing the essential character of the area. So what a variance is not is there's no such thing as a use variance. You can't say, well, I don't like the fact that I can't have a slaughter yard in R110 zone. Give me a variance. You cannot do a use variance in the state of Utah. And as I said, it must be for the physical hardship of the property. And the best example that we have done here, this is down in going towards the Jordan River. There was a lot, as you can see on the left-hand side, that to the back of this house that you can see mostly is a very extreme hill. You can see it on the hills in back of the red car. Well, this hill actually came very close to the back of the house. Their ask was, can we move the house 5 feet closer to the front? Because otherwise we won't be able to build this house. The house is the same size as everything that's built in the neighborhood, so it's the same house for the character of the neighborhood. They weren't asking for something monstrous or gigantic. All they were asking is something that was created by the lot itself, because the geography of the lot, most of their backyard, as you can see, is on a hill. So this was a perfect candidate for a variance because they met the 5 tests of hardship. Another one would be this odd shaped lot, as you can see on the left. This is a very, very, I've been cut off. It has three roads on all 3 sides, and then the other thing is for right-of-way acquisition. The government comes in and says, we're going to take some of your property. A variance would be appropriate in that case. And I will end there, but another thing you can get variance for in West Jordan is the undergrounding of utilities. The Board of Adjustment has done a number of those, but they still need to meet the tests of hardship. And that's my training for the night. I know I didn't leave you much time for questions, but just know that the decisions you make can be appealed.
Any questions? Okay, we will take a 3-minute recess. Yeah, so. All right, we'll start. All right, we'll go ahead and convene the Planning and Zoning Commission for West Jordan for November 15th, 2022. All members present with the exception of Commissioner Marchant. First on the agenda is our business items. And we'll go ahead and go down line by line because I know we've got some little bit of discussion on item 2. So first is on approval of the minutes for November 1st.
I will motion to approve the minutes.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, carries 6-0. Next is the 2023 Planning Commission calendar. And we kind of talked a little bit about it before. One of the dates, which is November 7th, is election day. And I think the majority wanted to go ahead and just not have it meeting that day. So any discussion on that item?
Yeah, I agree on the 7th. What was the other day?
Well,
was
the other one,
the other one was just canceled, or was it moved to
no,
Wednesday?
it's moved to Wednesday. They have to switch it because of the canvassing.
So was it moved to Wednesday the 22nd,
Correct.
which puts it the day before Thanksgiving? I would suggest that we just cancel both of the meetings in November.
I didn't even think about that.
Maybe we move the one to the 8th. And oh, that's right.
So I missed the pre-meeting discussion on this, so forgive me if I ask a repetitive question, but it's not it's not even midterm elections, it's the middle of the cycle election. Is there really,
It's West Jordan municipal election,
for what role?
city council.
Oh, is it already for next year? Fun.
Yep.
All right.
So that's why that we were talking about not holding it that day, but. Commissioner Hatch?
Just to echo what George just said, the 14th and the 28th, how do those days look, Julie?
Those are dates that the Board of Adjustment and the Design Review Committee would meet if there is a meeting. So I guess you could work around, I mean, those days are reserved for that, but they could always adjust their schedule if needed.
I agree with that. I think if we just do, I would say do just the 14th. The 28th, we're meeting the next Tuesday right after. And 14th is, we've got 3 weeks before and 3 weeks after. It's pretty good middle ground.
Let me kind of rephrase this. So we want to hold our meeting instead of the 7th, do it on the 14th, cancel the one on the 22nd, and that would take care of November. Any questions or concerns about that?
Sounds great.
So
Okay.
it's probably better that somebody makes an actual motion, right, in that regard?
Okay.
I will make a motion. I would like to move that for the November 2023 calendar, we cancel our Planning Commission meeting on the 7th and move it to the 14th of November and cancel the meeting on November 22nd, 2023.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Commissioner Wynn. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, carries 6-0.
We need to approve the rest of the calendar?
Yeah, we gotta probably approve the rest of the calendar. That's since we've kind of only done November. Anybody have any other questions about the rest of the calendar? Now, I think the 4th of July was
Yeah, and that's already listed on the calendar
Was
as,
off, yeah.
as being,
okay.
so basically, I think the best motion would be just to accept the calendar as is with
With
the
exception.
changes you just approved in your last motion, maybe.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to accept the 2023 Planning Commission calendar with the exception of November, which was detailed in the last motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Commissioner Wynn, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that carries 6-0. We will move on to our public hearing with final action by the Planning Commission. West Jordan Oil Changers, 4782 West, 7800 South, the preliminary site plan.
Hello, can you hear me?
Condition use permit for vehicle and equipment repair. Looks like,
I
Taylor.
cannot hear
Oh, actually, let's,
anything.
oh, they're on Zoom?
Rich, I
Okay.
can hear you.
Okay.
Andre? Can you hear us, Andre? It's, oh, Alejandro. Okay. Can you hear us? Mr. Alejandro? If you would like to speak, go ahead. Taylor, do you want to kind of help out?
Sure. Do you want me to just do my presentation and okay. So as mentioned, this is a site plan, conditional use permit, and a minor subdivision amendment for the Wheatland Estates Phase 1, Lot 2 plat. And this is for the West Jordan Oil Changers site. So here we can see its location. It is at the intersection of 4800 West and 7800 South. It's currently zoned SC2. And the future land use designation is neighborhood commercial. So it is an existing development. There's just a portion up at the front that hasn't been developed yet, and they are splitting it into 2 lots. Remainder parcel will be located to the east, with the majority of the parcel going for the West Jordan Oil Changer site. Here we can see the proposed plat, creating Lot 2A. Lot 2B will be the remainder parcel, which will be developed at a future time to be determined. We have taken these elevations to the DRC. They received a recommendation from for approval. These are colored elevations. It is a grayscale type development with just a little tad bit of yellow in some of their signs. So those are the colors they will be proposing to build the site. Here's staff recommendation based on our review. It's in your packet. Happy to answer any questions which you might have.
Any questions for staff?
If you could review access to and egress from the property.
Yeah, so they will use existing access. There's no changes being made to the access. So there's a access on the north side of it that's used currently by the AutoZone and the existing strip mall. And then there's another access located on the east side of Lot 2B at the intersection there. So they'll be using those existing accesses and no new.
Hey, Commissioner Wynn?
My memory might be fooling me here, but I seem to recall that along 7800 South there, which would be on the south edge of this property, there's a drainage ditch. Am I mistaken about that? Just if there's a drainage ditch there, it's not going to get in the way of development.
I'm not aware of any drainage ditch there. I know we have looked at the drainage with our engineering department, and we're still working out how the report's going to work out, but there weren't concerns about there being a ditch in that location.
Okay, thank you.
It is sort of a basin there right now, but they'll have a basin that will store their retention on site.
So that's a perfect segue into the question I had, or one of the questions I have is the on-site. Can you show where that basin would be located?
I'm actually not seeing it on here. So I can check with the engineering. Actually, I think is actually what ended up happening is there was a master grading site or drainage for the Wheatland Estates commercial subdivision. They're connecting into that, and it was finding that report, which took us some time. I think they found that early last week. So there isn't actually a drainage basin on this. That was me misspeaking.
Okay.
Is everybody able to hear me?
I'm actually not seeing it on here.
Yes.
Bitch, this is Heather. I can hear you.
Who?
Yeah, I can hear it on the YouTube thing. I can't hear it through Zoom.
Oh, are we supposed to connect to YouTube?
No.
You're live with the planning commission, so. And we can hear you.
This is Andre. I can hear you now.
Okay, if
Yeah, I
you
don't think
wait
anyone can hear us though.
just a second, and we will finish with staff because we couldn't get a hold of you, and then we'll turn some time over to you. So just hold on. Okay, Andre Morales.
Okay, so just following right along with that, the stormwater retention, this is an area that it needs it. This is where all of the drainage from the site goes to. At least whenever I see a rainstorm, this is where it pools. So questions really were related to that. Where does the stormwater retention go? There's another page that showed the access and maintenance utility easement. Different slide. Is that currently in use? Is it a city easement or does it belong to a third party?
Yeah, are we talking about the diagonal one that goes across lot 2A?
Correct.
And that's not a city. That'd be private facility.
Okay. What is the city's obligation? I noticed the footprint of the building is almost right up to, if not right on top of, part of the sidewalk in front of the building is in that easement area. What is the city's obligation to protect that, if any?
Sorry, I'm not sure. So the building footprint you said is too close to the sidewalk?
To the access easement. I want to make sure we're not going to approve a building footprint that impacts a third party's easement without, if we're not supposed to. Does that make sense?
It's the city's obligation. I noticed that the front of the building is almost right up to, right on top of, where the sidewalk in front of the buildings in that easement area. It's the city's obligation to protect that.
Interesting hearing myself speak. Okay.
So no concerns with that came up during the reviews with, we had property review at engineering and utilities, and that was never raised as a concern by any of the parties.
Was the owner of that easement involved in those conversations?
The owner signed the applications for both of these, yes.
Okay. Oh, good. That'll be a great conversation or great question for you when you have that opportunity. Second question or third question, I guess, really is there's on the site plan it shows an 8-foot perimeter landscape on the north in the asphalt. I would suggest that not be shown on there, and just I don't know if that requires some form of a variance, given that it does border an existing asphalt parking lot. I don't think they're going to be putting in an 8-foot landscape perimeter there. So those are my comments.
Okay, any other comments from?
I'm curious now to see where that, could you show us where that, what Commissioner Allen was just speaking about as far as where the asphalt is and where the 8-foot perimeter is? I'm just curious to see it in real life.
It's gonna be, so. I'll just come up because.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
So if you look, it's just where the,
Right where
see
the arrow is.
going?
Yep.
So it's between the drive aisle and the proposed building. That's the code requirement, is the reason why it's there.
It's right up next to the building.
So on the map,
We need to speak into the microphone.
Yes, it's next to the building.
so on the plat map, or on the site map that was in the packet, it's showing it, could you go back to that other image? It's showing it up here. Right off of the north, coming 8 feet down from that north boundary. So I'm okay if it's the 8 foot around the building, but it was showing it way up in the north where the asphalt is.
Okay, yeah, we can correct that if it does show that it shouldn't be up there.
Right. So that's just a misprint? Or, okay. Are you satisfied about the catch basin? Oh. Are you,
No, I not entirely satisfied on the storm drainage. What I would push back, or what I would say is, if the staff report was completed and posted, it sounds like, before they found the drainage plan. And the staff report suggests that there's no issues, and we're hearing now that even having received that plan and reviewed it, there's still no issues or recommendations or conditions recommended by the engineering staff, and that everything should move forward.
Right, we received an email from the utilities manager saying that there shouldn't be any issue. They can go forward to planning commission. Anything that needs to be addressed can be addressed through engineering with the final site plan.
Okay, I feel good about that.
okay. Commissioner Shelton?
Yes, could you address the parking of the existing parking lot, and if there's going to be any impact on the existing parking lot?
No, there won't be any impact on the existing parking lot. Everything should just be new parking spaces with this.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions for staff? Okay, Andre, let's try to see if we can get you up. Can you hear us, Andre?
Can you hear me?
I can hear Mitchell. Or is that?
Yeah, Mitch with Stonefield. I'm a little behind. Are you guys talking about the stormwater item?
Yes.
Okay, so just to provide a little clarity on that, this site was part of a larger drainage plan that we've been trying to get our hands on. It doesn't appear to exist. So what we're going to be doing is putting together a revised drainage report for this site. This will likely result in a underground basin using oversized pipes on our site. And we've discussed that with the city engineer and utilities, and we actually included a note on our plan that we will work with city staff on providing a stormwater drainage report that meets all city requirements. I hope that clears up any questions there.
Okay, thank you. Andre, did you want to add anything to this?
No, nothing additional to what Mitchell said.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant? Nope. Okay, this is slated for a public hearing. If you're here to speak about the public hearing, you'll be given 3 minutes. Just come up to the podium and hit the right button, and the red light should hit. And speak your name, please.
Okay, yes, Paul Stringham. I work with Peterson Development. So we've been working with the applicant here for a good year on this piece of property. They have been doing the civil work, so they have their civil engineer and so forth. We've followed along and asked questions and so forth. We believe as Peterson Development that we, in our review, that and in working with the city and staff, that they're compliant. I think these are very good questions that are being addressed. This isn't a drainage area, and as the applicant has said, they need to meet city requirements, because I know the water slopes there. I acknowledge that. The parking situation there is good, according to the code, and I'm looking at Taylor right now, but based on this type of use, where really it is a drive-through, oil change, there's not a heavy parking requirement. There is I'm sure that, Taylor, I'm looking at you right now, but I'm sure the building does park itself. It does meet adequate parking and code.
Yes, it's got probably 50% more parking spaces than required.
And we at the same time have cross access because we, Peterson Development, own the property next door, so we understand that as well. So there is some cross access easement right there as well. So any questions from us? We feel like the applicant has done their homework. We support them. We feel like it's an appropriate use for the area. Access is good on the west side and then on the east side to the property. And there you go. If you have any questions, I'm certainly happy to address it. But
Thank you, sir.
thank you.
Is there anybody else who would like to speak? Hold your hand up if you're on Zoom or come up to the podium. Okay, seeing none, we will go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it up to the commission for comment and or motion.
There's one item I wanted to bring up before you start discussing that this is, several applications in one. It's a site plan, it's a subdivision plat, and it's an administrative conditional use. Normally, the zoning administrator would hear an administrative conditional use, but as I understand it, it's better to just package all three applications together as one. If you remember that we focused a lot on conditional uses recently, staff has made or they've done some analysis on that, and they have not found any any detrimental effects that need to have conditions. But that's something you probably ought to discuss and either agree with that analysis, or if you do find a condition, then you need to identify. Or if you do find a detrimental effect, you need to identify what it is and why it's detrimental. The main staff analysis that I remember from the staff report is that this particular proposed use is next to other commercial uses, and so it's not your typical commercial right next to residential where you've got several obvious potential detrimental effects. But it's still something you need to jump through those hoops in your analysis.
Okay, thank you. Okay, do we have any comments? Commissioner Sheldon?
Well, it is directly across the street to the south of a neighborhood. There is a sound wall. And there's also a neighborhood directly to the west. But I believe there's also a sound wall there. I don't feel personally that there would be any real negative detrimental effects on that neighborhood.
Okay.
I think I'd echo that with one clarification. To the west is a vinyl fence. I think neither here nor there. I think it matches well with the community. I'm inclined to agree based on the conversation that I don't see any detrimental effects to really have to mitigate through here, especially since they're going to be considering the drainage and making sure that's resolved. The perimeter buffer that I've mentioned up with the landscape, that it sounds like everybody's on board with what that's supposed to be, and it'll just be a change on the site plan. So based on all of that, I'd be happy to make a recommendation unless there's other comments. All right.
Do we need 3 separate motions then, correct? Okay, we'll one at a time.
Oh, perfect. You got it. Let's see. You don't have it up here. Oh, there it is. I move that the Planning Commission approve a conditional use permit for a limited vehicle repair for West Jordan Oil Changers on approximately 0.664 acres located at 4782 West, 7800 South, subject to all requirements of approval.
Commissioner Quinney?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, carries 6-0 on that one. Do you want to?
Yeah, we'll just keep moving.
Okay.
I move that the Planning Commission approve a site plan for West Jordan Oil Changers, a quick oil change shop located at 4782 West, 7800 South, subject to all requirements of approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that carries 6-0.
And I move that the planning commission approve the Wheatland Estates Phase 1 Lot 2 amended minor subdivision on approximately 1.02 acres located at 4782 West, 7800 South with the conditions and requirements of approval.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that carries 6-0. So, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Excuse me? Oh, okay. Thank you. Next on our agenda is public hearing with Planning Commission recommendation to the City Council for final action. And this will be the Copper Rim Town Center IOZ, approximately 5950 West, 7800 South. Amend the preliminary master development plan to revise the approved fencing in the commercial area along the Mountain View corridor. And this is PCIOZ zone. And Ray, or yeah. Do we have a person from CW Land? Yes, sir. Okay. Would you like to come up and speak? Okay. Just state your name.
Hi, I'm Matt Dean. I'm Vice President of CW Land Company. Nice to meet you all. I'm here tonight representing the Copper Rim Master Developer as well as Furniture Row USA to respectfully request a change in wall and fence building material. And I figure, on behalf of applicant, I'm already in the credits column because I'm here live and there won't be any technical difficulties, I hope. As Ray will discuss in his application, in 2021, the Master Development Plan for the town center at Copper Rim included an 8-foot high concrete sound wall fronting both the commercial and residential land uses along Mountain View corridor. For reasons why I don't really know. I started on Copper Rim about 4 months ago. The purpose of this amendment is to modify the building material from an 8-foot solid concrete wall to an 8-foot decorative fence, as we feel that the 8-foot concrete wall, excuse me, is not appropriate to front the commercial retail uses along MVC for two main reasons. First main reason is visibility to Mountain View corridor. The commercial retail businesses within the town center highly desire visibility to Mountain View corridor, which is one of the primary reasons for them selecting the site. An 8-foot high solid concrete wall will block the majority of their commercial retail storefronts. In fact, if the solid wall is adhered to, commercial retail businesses, including our newcomer to town, Furniture Row, would most likely select an alternative site location somewhere else in the Salt Lake Valley. Rather, the proposed 8-foot aluminum fence will provide these businesses with the transparency they need in order to achieve locational success. The second reason is sound attenuation. While an 8-foot high concrete sound wall is appropriate and intended for the residential uses fronting Mountain View corridor, and I would turn to the map really quick. So the area that Ray circled would be the portion of the sound wall fronting the commercial uses. The higher piece is the piece of the sound wall that is fronting Lennar's project, which are residential uses. That portion of the sound wall is important to keep because it's intended to front residential land uses, but not commercial retail businesses. For these reasons, the master developer and its commercial retail businesses within the town center, including Furniture Row, respectfully ask for your support to switch from the previously approved 8-foot high concrete wall to an aluminum 8-foot high decorative fence, as we feel that this is important and necessary to retain current and attract future commercial businesses to Copper Rim and West Jordan City. In conclusion, note that this request is limited to only the commercial retail portions of the town center that front Mountain View corridor, And the 8-foot concrete sound wall will continue to be required for all residential land uses directly fronting MVC. Also, in my conversations with Furniture Row, they intend to install an 8-foot high picket style aluminum decorative fence and intend to paint the aluminum with a flat black color. From the provided construction drawings, and I think there was a drawing provided in this packet on the next slide. Nope, that one, yeah. This looks to me like it's going to be a tasteful and attractive fence. Thank you for taking the time to consider this.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Ray?
I think you're all very familiar with the site. And the applicant's done a good job of explaining the reasons that the fence should be changed. I think in this situation we agree with the applicant. If you look at the site plan for Furniture Row, the building is whoops, keeps jumping in. There we are. The building is facing kind of southwest towards the intersection of Mountain View Corridor and 7800 South. We think, as far as commercial uses are concerned, it's really important for that visibility. And our recommendation just is for approval. We think that it's a good change and makes sense in this case.
Okay, any questions for staff? Commissioner Allen?
I'll try to keep it simple. We go from an 8-foot masonry fence to a 6-foot brick and picket style fence, back to an 8-foot picket style fence. Would we, as a city, be comfortable with a 6-foot picket style fence to continue so we're not going up, down, up?
It's 8 foot.
Oh,
I'm suggesting that we allow them to do a 6-foot picket style fence.
there, yeah, along the water tank, you're right. There is a 6-foot. It's a 6-foot fence rather than 8 foot, and I don't think we have any issues with it going to a 6 foot.
So your question is just to make it.
Just make it so that it's consistent.
I would leave it up to the applicant. If they want to put an 8-foot and it makes more sense for them, fantastic. But I'd just assume allow them to do a 6-foot as well, noting that there'd be a cost savings. I think really primarily is all it would be.
No, it's not. It's a. It's not. It's a wrought iron. It's the one that's on the bottom of at the bottom right, lower right. It's that one.
Anyway, that's my only comment. Is if they want to, great. If they don't want to, that's fine. I just want to leave that open, if it makes sense.
Okay. No, I think we're fine with it.
Appreciate that. I think Furniture Row is fine with the 8-foot. I think that would be more cost effective than the brick pillar fence as well. Because that you're introducing 2 or 3 trades in the lower right corner photo there. Excuse me.
Yeah, and to be clear, I'm not suggesting a brick. I'm just suggesting drop it to 6 feet.
Height.
Yeah,
Got it.
just the height.
Okay. Any other questions for staff? I think we're good. Okay, we'll go ahead and open this up for a public hearing. Again, you'll be given 3 minutes to speak on this. Please just state your name. Anybody online? Okay, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing and bring this back up to the commission for comment and or motion.
I'll go ahead and make a motion.
Okay,
We're all good with that. Where did it go? I move to approve the proposed amendment to the Copper Rim Town Center Preliminary Development Plan as requested and allow the applicant to choose height between 6 and 8 feet as indicated by Commissioner Allen.
Second.
okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, carries 6-0. Next on the agenda is the text amendment development procedure. Amend the West Jordan 2009 code section 13-7C-1 through 13-7C-9 and sections 13-7D-1 to 13.7D-9, general plan amendments and zoning ordinance amendments, citywide applicability. And Alan Anderson will speak on behalf of the city.
Yes, thank you. Commissioners, it's good to be with you this evening. These changes, some of them are just to make some clarifications. Some of them are requests by the council. The council will be having a work session on this in the near future. I'm presenting it to you this evening for your recommendation, consideration, any thoughts you may have. What's on the screen before you right now are the bullet points that basically are corrected in this section of code. The administration has renamed the Community Development Department to Community Development, which is what it is now. This fixes that in code. Defines a public hearing process for both the Planning Commission and the City Council. Basically, what that would do in the sections of code is once the notice has been sent out for the benefit of the public that the public hearing would be held, there would not be a possibility to pull that item. They could just reschedule it. That's for the benefit and the transparency of the public that are being noticed. Many of the land use, there's a cost to mail notices out that the developer pays. Once that's been done, this is, I think, just a courtesy to all the parties. That is a request that at least 4 council members have asked for. Prohibits incomplete applications without all the submittal requirements. For example, just applying for a future land use map without a project defined or rezone without a project defined. It makes it really hard for the city and for the council to budget for infrastructure needs, water tanks, roads. As new projects come in and we need to hire more police or more fire, just making sure that we have, when someone comes in and says, I want to rezone this parcel, this is what we want to put on the parcel as part of the rezone. This is what its impact to water, what its impact to the city services would be. So it does do that. That is also a request of the majority of the council. And then it also expands the application analysis across various city departments. Back on my time when I was serving on the city council, it seemed like everything was very much in silos. And what this does now is in some section or part of this code amendment, it talks about, of course, when I'm sitting over there, it's much easier to find things. But that the affected departments are able to provide an analysis, whether it's public utilities with water and sewer, or storm drains, streetlight plans, just trying to get everything cohesive between the general plan, water master plan, transportation master plan, active transportation master plan, public utilities, public services, public works. How do we get everybody participating in a development process for the benefit of the developer and the benefit of the city? It also amends at the request of the legal department, changing findings to criteria and determinations. So that is there. Also, the legal department put in consistent wording. So we're using future land use map consistently throughout these sections of code. The general map amendments consistent throughout this section of code. And then just some minor editings with clarifying at the very end the submittal requirements with subsection lettering, so it's easy to find and locate. So these are really, this is a synopsis of what the proposed text amendment is. And I can answer any question, hopefully answer any questions you may have.
I've got one question. So according to this proposal and stuff, when a project comes to the either council and or the commission, it'll actually have, okay, we're suggesting that this parts will go in, but we'll need like 3 shares of water, 2 shares of sewer. So it's pretty defined as far as that, or?
Yeah, so one of the things that the council would like to do is we have the data. We just need to compile the data and get it into a part that we can participate in and make determinations on, objective instead of being subjective. So objectivity would be a 11-acre parcel of land may use X number of ERUs or estimated residential units of water. So then what does that impact do to that 11 acres that's going to use water from a zone, a water zone, and its subsequent feeding into a trunk line to get for sewer, right? So if you're using 25 or 35 ERUs on an 11-acre parcel, that is water that's now being taken out of that zone. And I hope I'm close. I don't have any department heads to correct me. But Larry will correct me. But you allocate ERUs, and then that ERU, that water then ends up in the sewer line, which takes capacity out of the sewer line. So what kind of impact does that have on another 20 acres that might be further west or further north that feeds into that trunk line? So these are really, in a nutshell, just you want to rezone the property. What do you want to put in there so that we can calculate ERUs and loads on the infrastructure for the benefit of the city, so that we're doing good budgeting and we're doing good processes. That's really what these text
Well, I
amendments
think
are.
it would also make it easier for us to understand what's being proposed too.
Well, if you get a parcel that is, 25, 30 acres or 100 acres, and they want to just want to do a map amendment, or they want to just do a rezone but not really have an item to that, how does Public Utilities plan a water pipe size? How does Public Utilities determine the sewer line? And then if that gets put in, what's the determination of, or not determination, how does that impact future development that might use that same trunk line or that same water zone? And right now, I know the city's building a lot of water tanks to keep up with the demand. So this is just kind of let's start getting everybody talking. Let's plan. Let's think. Let's make it a win-win for everybody. So that's what the hope is.
Thank you. Commissioner Wynn.
If I'm not mistaken, I read in here somewhere that there's a new provision that requires the Planning Commission, if there's a negative recommendation, if we review an application and give a negative recommendation to the city council, we need to stipulate the reasons for that negative recommendation. Did I read that correctly?
Yes, that is correct.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, like I said, we're getting to, I think, maybe what we should be doing, and as we come up with these processes, what are the impacts to the city? What are the impacts to the developer? What are the impact to the residents? And how do we manage and work those?
I know when I'm reading the packets and stuff, to me, and this is just me, it makes it a little more clear and easier to understand than it just kind of a vague, it's okay.
Right. It's hard to fly a plane when the windshield is cloudy. It's very easy to fly a plane when the lens is clear.
Yeah.
Same thing applies to school buses, I might add.
School buses, cars, trains, you name it. But just clarity.
Okay, any other questions for staff? Okay.
Thank you, commissioners.
This has been slated for a public hearing, so if you're here to speak on this, you'll be given 3 minutes. If you're online, hold your hand up. And we'll go ahead and close this public hearing and bring it up to the commission for comments. Commissioner Quinney.
I'm just gonna make a motion since nobody's racing to leave any more comments on this one. Based on the information and findings set forth in the staff report and upon the evidence and explanations received today, I move the Planning Commission forward a positive recommendation to the City Council for this application.
And I will second that. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that carries 6-0. And next on the agenda, since we are missing Commissioner, I will make a motion that we postpone this until our next meeting. Be December 7th or 6th? 6th. I will not be here, but I think
We'll be
everybody
here.
else. Where am I going to be?
We'll be here.
That's all that matters.
So you've got a motion. You
I
just
second
need
your motion, Jay.
Okay, a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that carries 6-0.
I move to adjourn.
Okay. We are adjourned.
Recording stopped.